Hello, hi everyone. Kelvin from London. I'm back on the hi-fi trail. My job, what I'm doing is trying to give as much info as I can about stereo equipment, old, new. What does it sound like? You know, does it sound good? There are some things that don't sound good. There's some things that sound great. How to put them together, you know, or really give you the, you know, share my knowledge basically. Okay, which I've been messing around for years. What have we got today? We've got really a kind of classic thing, certainly a classic name, and it has a classic, super classic younger brother. This is the NAD 3130, 1985, 30 watts. This came after the, probably I believe, the best-selling amp of all time, the NAD 3020, which was 20 watts. Came out in the late 70s. So this is the kind of big brother or second brother from NAD. Okay, let's go through the controls and everything, and then I'll get into the sound. Okay, we got bass, balance, volume, usual stuff, loudness, low level if you just want to go quiet suddenly. CD, phoner, tuner, tape. The phono can have moving magnet or moving coil. You can select that at the back. So if you're having moving coil, you don't need a separate phono stage for that. Tape monitor, mono, infra defeat, that is super low level. It's really a rumble filter for turntables. If you look at turntables that are old, you might see your cone doing that. Literally like at that speed. And you think, what's that? Well, it's literally the sort of grinding of the spindle on the bottom, making this sort of unhearable low level sound. But you don't want your cones doing that for no reason. So that cuts that out. As I say, it's called different names on different amps. Now it has this thing here, bass EQ. It's basically a little bass boost button, yeah. I mean, they say it's like, well, most speakers don't have enough low bass, so we're just going to boost it a little bit. So it's really like a baby loudness button, yeah. Because loudness boosts bass and treble. This is just boosting bass. So if you press that in, you're going to get a little bass boost, yeah. I mean, something I don't know if I've ever said before is when you press loudness, you know, which is really a cheap trick, really, you know, but when you press the loudness button, if you're really quite high up volume, you know, like halfway, which is pretty loud, you can press the loudness button and nothing will happen. It won't change anything. It only works at low level because that's what it's for. Low level listening, boost the bass, boost the treble, which are things that you will lose, you know, the way the human ear works. Okay. It also has preamp, power amp separation at the back. So you can plug in a big power amp if you want and use this preamp, or the other way round. I really like that. You know, I could get two amps and go, well, let's try the power amp of this and the preamp of that one. Or maybe it's just me who've got all these amps. Anyway, let's do the sound of this amp. First off, because I have to do this comparison with the NAD 3020 because it was such a killer amp, you know. Nothing is as good as that 3020 or hits the bullseye of a certain type of cohesive warm sound like the 3020 did. No other amps around that period did it. That's why it was a massive amp, a huge amp. And so this one doesn't quite do that either, but that's not meaning it's a bad amp because it's a good amp. Okay, what can we say about this sound? It's got nice power reserves, yeah? So it can do explosive things, you know, cymbal crashes. Psh, 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 psh. This is where a lot of cheaper amps in the modern era, you know, really fall down. They're kind of flat. They're just flat sounding. You know, this is part of the popularity of old amps, that they have the headroom to do explosive sounds. You know, they have the power reserve to do that. It's kind of borderline the vintage sound, this thing. It's also borderline getting into, I'm not calling this a high-end thing, but it's sort of getting into that area. It's getting in away from a certain lovely sound and getting into, I'm just going to give you a load of detail. If anything, I would say it's very detailed in the middle and the top. I mean, the bass is nice too, but I suppose the bass is a little bit more vintage orientated. It's kind of a bit more forward in the mix. I kind of like that, do you know what I mean? We did some songs, or I did some songs, so let's have a look at those now. So I had to do my classic song, which I can't get away from this song because it's so good for testing amp speakers. Take It Easy, the Eagles. Gorgeous. It's got the gorgeous vocals. It's got the nice pumping bass. You're just really enjoying that song. You know, you're just loving that song. The vocals are a nice separation in the middle, you know. If I was to go into super detail, which is kind of my job, it may even be too much articulation in the middle. Maybe a tiny bit too much. And, but for an amp of this cost, and I'll tell you who I compared this with in a minute, but I'm picking hairs really, but maybe teeny bit analytical or etchy in the middle, teeny bit, but those vocals on the Eagles Take It Easy was an absolute joy. And you have to be a pretty bad amp to mess that up because the singing is gorgeous, do you know what I mean? Alison Krauss, I listened to, not Alison Krauss, Sweet Decline, Beth Orton. I listened to that only because it's a challenging song, because that is a bit etchy and edgy in the middle. And I guess this was a little bit etchy, a little bit, compared to, and these are the amps I compared it to, the Sansui 317, which is kind of my favourite Sansui amp. So that's a kind of stick out good amp from 1978. And I also compared this to an Arcam Alpha 8, which is, I think, early 90s, might be 1995. They're all similar power. I mean, this is 30 watts, but if I compare this to the Sansui, which is 50 watts, you don't hardly notice it, you know. I mean, that as I've said many times before, certain old amps, or at this period still, particularly in this amp, 30 watts is equal to what they will call 60 watts now. And it's just the way that they're messing around with statistics. So if you're thinking 30 watts isn't much, kind of forget it. I mean, unless you've got big demanding speakers, I kind of never hit this problem of powering things, you know. Okay, so Beth Orton was teeny bit edgy. What else can we say here? Soundstage is big, nice soundstage. You know, it's enjoyable. This is the kind of amp that you'll have a nice time. Yeah, you know, a lot of modern amps that cost £300-400, they'll leave you wanting. They won't, because they won't have the power reserves, or it won't feel effortless. This has that vintage, effortless delivery, which puts a smile on your face. You know, you're not like, feel like, what's happened? Where's that gone? You don't get those feelings with this. What else can we say? Okay, big sound stage, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about the phono stage, because the phono stage turntables, super nice. Better than the Arcam Alpha 8, which actually has a good phono stage for an amp of its time period, because a lot of amps in the 90s, the phono stage was kind of just thrown in. They didn't really care about it because CDs were so big. I mean, some companies did, but that Arcam has actually got a nice phono stage, and this phono stage was just gorgeous in the bass, nice tight pumping bass lines, well articulated, spacious. I can't really knock it, you know, a good one. Obviously, NAD have already learned how to make phono stages in the 3020, so very, very nice phono stage. What else would I say about this? It's just good. I just liked it. It puts a smile on my face. I would say, let's compare now with the 3020 and the other amps. I'll do that for you. Nothing beats the 3020 for the cohesiveness. They're like absolute nice placements and warmth that that amp had, which was really, you know, why it was so popular. With this, I got a slight thing of like the sound stage getting a bit non-specific, you know. Couldn't really exactly place where those vocals were, or, you know, but this is not the sort of criticism that I should make of an amp of this price point, even at from the times, you know. So I'm raising it, I'm sort of comparing it with high-end stuff there. But I suppose at times I thought, oh yeah, I'm sort of losing the soundstage a bit, or it doesn't feel really solid, which the 3020 was just so good at. Compared to the Arcam, sound-wise, I preferred this for CDs or streaming. The Arcam seemed a little bit too technical, bit microchippy, a little bit edgy. Again, that's still a good amp, you know. Compared to the Sansui 317, I'm afraid the Sansui 317 gets it, but that's my one bestest Sansui from the whole decade, really. So again, a high standard I'm doing there. So what else would you say? Phono stage is good. Oh God, price wise, yeah, you can get this amp. Most times is selling for £100 on eBay. Worth saying, NAD probably not the world's most reliable thing, amps. This is still going strong, original, nothing said, no repairs, anything. It's been well looked after by John, thanks John. So, and this is a little later than the 3020s, which are, you know, a lot of those are probably broken or been repaired by now. But for £100, I'd say this would outperform £400 amps, you know, or certainly give you more, you know, give you more, have a bit more welly about it, you know. What do I say? I also say, do I want it? I kind of want it. I always ask this question. I kind of want it. I don't want it like mad, but if I didn't have a thing of this type, I would want it. I see this as a real bargain, particularly if you're into turntables. You know, 100 quid, I mean, you know, that's really a low amount of money these days, you know. So, okay, that might be it. So I'm going to review some speakers soon, British speakers, new and old. And thanks for watching. Okay, bye for now.